folks from this class that are out this week. So I'm going to Zoom them, and I'm also going to record our Zooming so that they can watch it if they choose not to join us. Or if you want to go back and you want to rewatch something that I taught, you will have that option too. We are missing Josh is one of the ones we're missing. Not missing Dana. All right. Okay. Before we dive into bell ringers, and Hunter, this is for you. There are 2 textbooks that go for this class, and make sure that if you have not ordered these yet, you go ahead and order them. This is the love of science, and both the pictures of these are on your OneNote underneath your weekly agenda, and it says pictures of textbooks. This is the English book, and then this is the science book. I have told them that I want this science book. However, this is the science book you're going to be able to find. So order whichever one you want to find. Is it Bailey that they sent? Bailey ordered this one. This is the picture, and then they sent her this one. So maybe that'll happen to everybody. So let's just see. But there's a love of ACT Science is the name of it. So, and if you want, I have pictures, but if you want to take a picture of it, you can. Okay? All right. So let's talk about today's word of the day. Anybody want to take a guess at how to say it? Go ahead. Aberrant. Aberrant. Very good. So you've heard this word before. Yeah. Anybody else know this word? You don't know what it meant. Okay. So it is aberrant. She is correct. Anybody have any idea based on context what part of speech it is? Adjective. Yep. It's an adjective. It is describing Timothy's anger. So it is an adjective. So everybody write down the part of speech, adjective. Believe it or not, knowing parts of speech of words will actually help you in the English section. Because like if the underlined word is an adjective or an adverb, then you know that your answer is probably got to be an adjective or an adverb. So that's why I do that. Anybody want to take a guess at what the definition is based on the sentence and context?
Non-existent.
Non-existent, okay, yes.
I put seldom, not often.
Okay, seldom, not often, not rare, and so Hunter was on the same vein, non-existent. So I would say it is atypical. Y'all are on the right path. Atypical, unusual, not normal. So aberrant means deviating from what is normal, right? I boxed in my semicolon. How many of you know that this is an appropriate use for the semicolon or know what the use for a semicolon is? Okay, you do. All right, so one of those uses is the way we see it here. Do you see you have 2 complete sentences and they're joined by a semicolon? I love it when people use it correctly. There is only one other use for the semicolon in the English language. Anybody know what it is? What? Winky face. I love it, Davis. Okay, three uses. All right, winky face between two complete sentences. Anybody know the other one? No. Okay. Here's the other one. This will change your grammar. If you can file this away right here today, this is like bonus information. When you have items in a series that are really long, okay, and it's confusing just to put a comma between it, you can actually separate those items in a series with a semicolon. So if I'm trying to give you an example off the top of my head.
Long numbers.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, let's say Hunter, went to the soccer field, kicked many round soccer balls and scored numerous goals. Okay, so do you see how my items in a series are kind of long? It's not just one word. It's went to the soccer field, kicked many round soccer balls, scored numbers of goals. So those are all items in series, but they're kind of long. So it may be more clear to your reader if you separated them with semicolon, like that, instead of commas. So if you have long items in a series, you can separate them with semicolons and it would be grammatically correct. You could still use commas and it would also be grammatically correct. But y'all, in the English language, besides winky faces, those are actually the only two uses for semicolons. People like to throw them out there because they're fun and they're unusual, but really you can only use them if you're putting two independent clauses together or you have items in a series that are long. Got it? Okay. All right, so we got aberrant. Who wants to give me an answer for the math of the day? Really easy math of the day. It's not going to always be this easy, but today it is.
12x to the fourth.
Yep, 12x to the fourth. Everybody get that? All right, so you know that when we have exponents, right, and we are multiplying exponents and they have the same base, then we do what with the exponents? We add them. Very good. If we are dividing with exponents and they have the same base, then we do what? Subtract. Very good. Okay, that's just a refresher course, knocking you on stuff. Okay, now the next thing that I want you to do, I want to review before I give you new material today. The first thing I want to do is I want to review from your running list of ACT strategies. So in your bell work, and I'll have to help you kind of catch up. I asked them to do a 3-ring binder. You can do it at the back of another subject if you want to, but I asked them that they had 5 divisions. One is bell work. One is for each section of the ACT. So reading ACT, English ACT, science ACT, math ACT. And I'm giving them stuff constantly, and so I want you to file it in each of those sections, and then you have a resource when you're done. So right before you take ACT, you can whip it out, and you can kind of choose what you want to go over. Okay, so I need to throw that red marker away. Get out in your bell ringer, they started a list that was called a running list of general ACT strategies, right? And we've just been adding to this last week, running list of general ACT strategies. All right. And we're going to start one of these in your reading section today for just reading. But this is for all general strategies. Who can tell me just a general strategy that we have talked about? And so you can catch up in this regard by writing all these down as we go over them today. All right, who can tell me what was our first one? Anybody remember?
Read all the instructions before.
Yes, so the instructions for every ACT are the exact same. They're what's in your practice booklet right here. You can read them ahead of the test, so you don't have to read them on test day, and it saves time. Okay, read directions ahead of time to save time. So every moment you have to devote to the actual content questions, the better, because time is of essence, right? All right, anybody remember another one we talked about? Just general for any section, not any particular section? We did only write down one. Does anybody remember the other ones we kind of talked about last week? No, I don't blame you.
You
Yes,
said underline, like you like to underline some words.
yes. So I think, I didn't think about that for the other class, but that is a great general strategy. Write in your test booklet.
You're allowed to do that?
Huh? Yes, you paid for your test booklet. It is yours. Write in your test booklet, underline important information. Yes, absolutely. You are allowed to do that and you want to do that. So that is great. The more we're gonna talk about this. So in math, in science, you should turn like some of those problems into symbols. If you find a word that you want to go back to, underline it. Yes, write in your test booklet. Cross out information that you know you don't need so you don't get confused, especially when we get to English, we'll talk about that. The more you write in your test booklet, the better. All right, can anybody remember anything else I said last week? That was a really good one, Olivia. I hadn't remembered that one, but we did talk about that last week. I'm gonna give you a hint. What if you're running out of time? Time is almost up. Yes, yes. So I'm going to rephrase it like this. Don't leave anything blank, right? Make sure you give yourself enough time to fill in all answers. I gave you a strategy on filling in all those answers. What did I say? Yep, pick a letter of the day. Very good. Pick a letter of the day. Very good. Now, the fourth one is kind of the opposite of number 3. This is if you're running out of time. What do you do if you have time left over? Go back and check over your answers. If you have extra time, go back and look over your answers, especially ones that you were iffy about, right? Try to go back and rework. If it's a math problem, try to go work back and approach it a different way. See if you can confirm any of the right answers. Or here's another valuable way to spend that extra time. Try to eliminate some of the other answers. So like if you chose C, go back and see, can I really honestly eliminate A, B, and D, right? And then that will help confirm whether or not you have the right answer. Okay, listen to me. Remember how when we were giving composite scores last week, I hope that you all saw, and it's part of why we do this exercise, that just getting 1 or 2 more questions right is the difference between one composite point. Did y'all see that? Like if you missed 19, then your composite score was 19. If you missed 18, then your composite score went down another point, right? So every single, if you have extra minutes, go back. It could be the difference between a 20 and a 21, or a 21 and a 22, or a 23 or a 24. Y'all see what I'm saying? So in the big scheme of things, I know, I understand. I was a teenager and I'm still like this. You get done with a section and you're like, oh, I have 5 minutes just to be brain dead. But think about it this way. You only have 4 hours to take that ACT. And in the big scheme of things, it's really not that much time. So make use of every single time. You know, you think I know I give you a bunch of sports analogies, but if you were on the soccer field and you scored a goal, your whole team wouldn't just go get on the bench and spend the last 5 minutes on the bench, right? No, you would still be out there defending your goal and try to get every point that you can get, right? So treat the ACT in the same way. It is competitive. It is like a football game. It is like a sport. Every point you get matters. So use these strategies as you're taking it. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's our general running list. Oh, I have one more that I didn't think of, or I haven't added yet today, and now I've put down the pen. Y'all gonna find I do this a lot. There it is. All right, number 5. The last thing is something we talked about, but you want to know your timing strategy for each section, right? All right. Do y'all agree? So if you go in and you know how many passages are on the test or how many questions and how many minutes you're gonna have, you're gonna have an advantage over somebody who is coming in green and doesn't know any of that stuff. All right, so let's think about now shifting gears back to reading. We talked on Friday about our first reading study card, and Hunter, I'm gonna have to make you another one because I gave them all out, and I will have that for you tomorrow. But we talked yesterday a little bit about the first strategies of things you really, really, really need to know in order to do well on the reading section, okay? And the first thing has to do with a timing strategy. So if you will turn over in your 3-ring binder now to your reading section, and we're gonna have a running list of reading strategies. So in your bell ringer section, you're gonna have a running list of all ACT. It doesn't matter what section it is, but in your reading section, you're gonna have kind of this running list. Now, I'm gonna give you a lot of study cards, and you don't need to write down those strategies. This is stuff that's like extra, little specific strategies that if you apply, you'll really increase your score. Okay, so let's talk first of all about timing of the reading section. How many passages are there on the reading section of the ACT? There are 4 sections, and then how many minutes do you have? Anybody remember? 35. All right, so there, and if you want to think about it as question-wise, there are 40 questions, 35 minutes, or 4 passages in 35 minutes. And I've told you that, depending on how you handle the passage, it's really kind of hard on the reading to do question per minute, right? So I would really take it by passage. And so we talked about 4 passages, and that equals, y'all remember? 8 minutes and 45 seconds per passage, right? That's the first thing that I really want you to know. Okay, now, on Friday, and this is kind of what I will give you. Everybody get out this little study card that I gave you on Friday. And everybody, and I also posted that on OneNote. It is under your reading section, but I will give you a hard copy. I'm just making sure I don't have one more copy of here right here. I would think I would have an extra. Okay. Okay, I'll make you one. I'll have one for you tomorrow. Okay, so let's talk about what we talked about on Friday. I gave you probably 2 of the most important tidbits for reading strategy that you really need to know. And really, everything else is just bonus, right? Icing on the cake. These things are the most important. Anybody want to tell me what one of those things was? Remember, I said I'm going to say this 100 times. Fill in the blank, fill in the blank. Anybody?
Restated or demonstrated?
Demonstrated. All right, now give me, what did those 2 words mean?
Restated, or is it shown?
Shown, that's a good word. All right, so let me put it like this. All the right answers on the reading section of ACT are the answer choices that are either restated or demonstrated. Okay, so what we talked about on Friday, Hunter, this is really important. That really the way you increase your score is you realize that because it is a standardized test, you are not supposed to interpret on the reading section of the ACT. In English class, we read literature and we talk about how the character felt and how they responded, and we interpret. On the reading, and like Davis might have a certain idea about a character and you might have a different one. And in an English class, your teacher says, absolutely, Davis, I like the way you thought through that. And absolutely, Hunter, I like the way you thought through that. And both of you could be right. But there's a problem if you do that on the ACT because it's a standardized test. And every question can only have how many right answers? 1. You can only have 1 right answer. And so in order to do that, the ACT has had to figure out how can we do an open shut 1 right answer so we can standardize this thing. And the way that they have done it is that every right answer is the answer that you can actually go back to the passage and either find that answer restated in the passage. So it's the answer choice says, oh, somebody give me one of the things that was an informal, like we read like a passage about a swim meet, and it was an informal swim meet thrown together at the last minute. It said answer choice B was informal swim meet thrown together at the last minute. And if you went to the passage, in the passage it says this swim meet was an informal swim meet thrown together at the very last minute. So word for word, right? And all we had to do was match it. So restated. Or sometimes the right answer is actually demonstrated. And what that means is it's not actually restated, but it's shown, like Hunter just said. And that means that maybe whatever the character's actions are were shown that answer choice. Okay, so those are the two, those are really, really important. You cannot interpret on the reading section. All right, who can tell me the other really important thing? It's on your card. So if you want to like skim over your card, how do you have, in order to be successful on the reading section, how do you have to read? Like, what does that reading exercise look like? Carefully and precisely. Right. So you have to read carefully and you have to read precisely, noticing the differences in the details. That's really what you need to, how you have to read. So you've got to be really careful not to interpret it and really careful just to read very carefully. Remember, I told you the other day, sometimes the wrong answer choices will have to be like missing, or they'll change just one word. So if you're not reading carefully, you might miss that one word. Y'all remember me saying that? Okay. All right. Y'all look really bored. Let me give you your next study card. So the way my brain works, I don't know if this is the way your brain works. I like to, like, in my brain kind of categorize information. And so you're going to see that I'm going to do that a lot in ACT prep. I'm going to kind of try to group things together so you can kind of see or remember the information. So what I'm handing you out now is the types of questions that you are going to see on the reading section of the ACT. So in my brain, I'll have like a category that says, okay, types of reading questions. And let me tell you why I'm going to introduce these to you. You will encounter these on the reading section of the ACT, and I'm going to give you a strategy for handling all of them. So when they throw these different questions out at you, you're like, oh, A, I've seen that before, and anything you've seen before, you're better at than never have seen it before at all, right? And then 2, you'll say, oh, I have a strategy. I know how to handle that, okay? So here's what's important, though. As we're walking through each of these types of questions, is that you actually go, okay, Ms. Rudder says this is a type of question. Here's the strategy, and then I'm going to apply it. So all week long this week, I'm going to be giving you for homework one reading passage. Remember, one reading passage is only like 10 questions. But I'm going to give you, I want you to begin applying this information that I give you when you take these reading sections. Okay? All right, so let's talk about number 1. And I'm going to use this booklet as some of the examples. Okay? So I need you to follow along with me, and I need you to digest this information. So everybody make sure you got this out. And let's talk about the first type of question. The first type of question is what we call a paragraph citation. You have already seen these types of questions. These are the type of questions when it says, look at paragraph number 7, lines 35 through 45. You're missing yours? I hadn't said anything yet, so you're in good shape. Okay, if you want to turn to passage 3. So passage 1 started on page 33. So passage 3 starts on page 37. And we're going to, everybody look at question number 27, okay? I'm going to give you a minute to get there. So I'm on page 38 and look at question number 27. This is an example of a citation question. Everybody underline the citation. It says in the 7th paragraph, lines 57 through 75, the author compares sidemen to traveling salesmen in order to blank blank. Okay, this is what we call a citation question. When the question actually tells you, you're missing yours? Hang on. I'm gonna give you this one, then I'll, let me look really quick to make sure it didn't get stuck back here. I don't see it, Tyler. Just use that one for today. Or is this it? Nope, that's that one. And make sure it's not up here. You know what? This one might be yours. I wrote Josh's name on it, but I think it's yours. So cross that out and put your name on there. Because I have his. Okay. I think it was missing a name, and so I thought maybe it was his, but I think it may be yours.
Is there an answer sheet inside?
No, I have all the answer sheets. Okay, so everybody see that this is what we call a citation question. It actually tells you what paragraph to look for. And let me tell you, these are probably the easiest questions on the reading section. You know why? You might have any guess why? Yes, because you don't have to search the entire passage to find the answer. The answer is going to be clearly demonstrated or restated just in that paragraph. Does that make sense? So, but let me tell you what ACT will do though. They will give you answer choices from outside of the citation. Even if it is something is restated, but it's not in the citation on a citation question, you can automatically eliminate it. It's a wrong answer. Okay, so they will give you a word for word answer choice that is from some other paragraph, not in the citation, just to get you to think, oh, it's in here, so this must be the right answer. But if it's not in the citation, you can automatically eliminate it. Okay, all right, so everybody take just a minute and read that citation and try to pick. And I'm gonna go ahead and warn you. I thought this was a hard question. So I'm gonna show you a strategy for dealing with citation questions and hard questions, all in the same. So go ahead and look at question number 27, read that paragraph and try to pick one of those answer choices. Okay. All right, before we even start, do y'all have an answer? Raise your hand if you do not have an answer yet. All right. All right, Tyler, finish up and I'm gonna take a vote. All right. How many of you, first of all, how many of you think that this was a restated answer choice or a demonstrated answer choice? It was a demonstrated. There was no word for word in passage number 7. So this is one of those demonstrated. And I'm going to go ahead and admit the demonstrated ones are a little bit more difficult than the restated ones to figure out because you really have to sort of read carefully, precisely. You have to be careful not to interpret, and then you have to kind of see what is really being demonstrated here. So they require a little bit more brain juice. Okay, so if we look at that paragraph, and I'm gonna look at it and read a little bit of it to you. So if we look at that paragraph, do we see that that paragraph makes clear musicians had to travel? What do you think? I'm going to read the key part of that paragraph. After making his way to New York, Barry immediately became a presence and soon was in demand. The great jazz orchestras of the swing era were fronted by musical directors and arrangers like Duke Ellington. He was preeminent. That means was kind of like the best. who drew a claim. The sidemen, and here's if you want to use your pencil, this would be where you would want to kind of underline. The sidemen were musical traveling salesmen who sold someone else's wares in the best style they could manage. Okay, now we know that the question is about musical sidemen, so we've got to think about what does that mean. I want you to think about what a traveling salesman does. How many of you have ever had somebody knock on your front door and want to sell you something? Anybody? Okay, I have. All right, and so here's what they do when they come up there. Hey, I have this awesome cleaner that is sold by the cleanest professionals in the world. So what is that salesman doing? They are selling a ware. They're giving it their all, their best. They want to sell you something for that company. Best cleaning supplies USA, right? So that's essentially what this author is saying, that the sidemen were musical, who basically you had these best people who were like the arrangers, and then the other musicians would basically travel around playing their music and basically saying, they'd be like, man, that's an awesome piece of music. Who wrote it? Oh, Duke Ellington wrote it. So it's like they're selling the musical compositions. So now that you know and you've thought about what it demonstrates, does it demonstrate to make sure that musicians travel? How many of you said A? Raise your hand if you said A, if you circled A. Okay, 1. How many of you said B? Come on, y'all, take a risk. Nobody said B? All right, how many of you said C? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. How many of you said D? Okay, 1. Okay. Now, y'all, in my other class, I had everybody choose A. I had A, B, and D. Nobody chose C in my other class. Okay. So, how many of you think it makes clear musicians travel? Does it talk anything? It does talk a little bit about them traveling, right? But does it really make clear that they had to travel? Do you think that's the point they're making? No. I think we can eliminate A. So when you have a hard question like this, that's a demonstrating one that has to use a lot of brain juice, you might want to eliminate. That's a really good strategy. If you're not sure, try to eliminate.
Excuse me, Ms. Brothers.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please send Dana McDonald to the office for an early dismissal?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Dana, I am going, let me give you homework for tonight before you speak. And I even have the directions on this one. So give yourself 12 minutes. And I want you to underline where you find it demonstrated or restated, and then write whether or not you think it was demonstrated or restated. Okay? But you're going to give yourself a little bit more than the 8:45 because you're going to give yourself some time to do those underlines. Okay. All right. So let's look at B. Does it indicate that musicians had to have side jobs? What do you think? Yes or no? No. So we can eliminate B. What about C? Does it illustrate a supportive role to the band? What do you think? Yeah, it does. But let's make sure we can eliminate D. Does it show how hard sidemen work? Does it say anything about them working hard or show that? A little bit. But could you make more of a case for this than this? What do you think? Yes. So guess what? C was your right answer. Okay. So in citation questions, they are typically easier because you have a very small passage to go look at, but they can also be hard because they're any question that's demonstrating can be hard. So if you get to a demonstrate question and you're like, I have no idea which one it could be, try to eliminate. Try to really isolate what do you think they're saying and then try to eliminate. Everybody understand? Okay, so here's the other thing. Here's one more strategy. Are you with me? Okay, here's one other strategy. When we talk about how to approach each passage in general, I'm not doing it today, but I'm going ahead and giving you this piece of information. It usually is easy to actually start answering the citation questions first. And here's why. If you are not going to read the whole passage, but you know, if you have a citation, you probably should read the citation, right? Because it's smaller. And as you read the citations, you actually are getting to know the passage. So if, let's say you read all of paragraph 7, then you have kind of an idea of what it's about, what the passage is about. And when you read the citations, you're reading sections of the passage. And so if you do that, then when you go back to the questions that are not citations, you may have a better feel of what the passage is about. Or you may even read information to answer some of those other questions in the passage. Does that make sense? Got it? Okay. Does everybody feel like they have citation questions down? Okay, good. Yes, no, maybe so. Hang on. Okay, good. All right, let's go to 2. Questions without citations. All right, so a question without citation is just the opposite of a citation question, but I am going to give you a strategy to put on your running reading list for questions without citations. Okay, so when you have a question that does not lead you to a certain paragraph or a certain line, where are you going to find the answer restated or demonstrated? Where? Anywhere in the whole passage. Okay, so does anybody know what might help you then find the right answer if you're looking for the answer in the entire passage? What? Thinking. Yes, it's going to involve your brain for sure. Anybody else? Hunter, wake up. Don't fall asleep on me. Stay with me. Anybody have any idea? Okay, have you ever looked at a question and seen like key words or phrases in the question and then use those key words to go search back into the passage for them? Anybody ever done that? We call that, you haven't? Okay, well see, we're gonna boost your score right here. We call those words locators, okay? And locators are going to be big in the reading and in the science section. So a locator is a word in the question that you can use to go back and search for the answer in the passage. All right, so use locators. And I'm going to define a locator as a word or words in the question that you can use to find the answer in the passage. Okay, so let's practice figuring out what our locators are. If you will turn in your book, let's go back to passage 1. Everybody look at questions 1 through 10 on page 34. Okay, and look at question number 3. Everybody look at question number 3 on page 34. What do you think would be a locator or a word that you could then go back and search for in the passage in question number 3? Natatorium. Very good. Underline that. This is an example of a locator. So you could then go back to that passage and you can skim looking for natatorium to see if there was an answer around natatorium. Okay. What about look at question number 7? What would be the locator in question number 7? Houston. Very good. Because they're not going to talk about Houston in the whole passage, but there is like maybe a couple of paragraphs about the swim meet being in Houston. So you could go pick out, skim, and look for Houston. Okay. What about number 9? Number 9 is not a citation question. What could be your locator there? Pool. Very good, because it's indoor or outdoor. So you're just going to go look for where he's talking about the actual pool. Now that one could be a little bit harder because pool was in almost that whole passage. But do y'all see how if you don't have a citation to narrow down where you go look for the answer, then you need to use locators. Kind of pick out a word that stands out in the question and then go back to the passage and skim your passage and find that. And then read around that word and see if maybe you can find your answer either restated or demonstrated. That makes sense? Okay, so that's how we handle questions with citations and questions without citations. All right, number 3. Everybody look at number 3 on their big sheet. Types of questions. Guess what? The ACT loves to ask you questions about what's the main idea, right? Or what was the author's purpose, right? Do y'all agree? You've seen that. You've come across those kinds of questions a lot. We have a strategy for that, okay? And a lot of times they will ask you, what do you think is the main idea? Well, guess what? They're not really asking you what you think. That would be interpretive. They really are asking you to go look at the passage and tell them what the main idea is. Here is my strategy for main idea questions. You should always answer them as the last question of the passage. Anybody have any guess why?
You know exactly what the whole, what they're trying to convey to you as a whole.
Right, because if you answer it last, you've already answered 9 other questions, including some citation questions. And when you answer those other 9 questions, you're going to interact with the passage. You're going to figure out what it's about. You're going to read pieces of it, right? So then you answer the main idea questions last, and then ding, 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 you can answer what the main idea is a lot easier than you could if you answered it the very first question. But y'all, guess what? You know what the ACT is going to do? Well, maybe. But the ACT likes to put main idea questions as the first question in a passage. And you know why they do that?
If you read it, the whole thing in waste time.
Yeah, they're hoping you'll go ahead and read that whole passage and you'll eat up a lot of your time to answer that first question, and then you'll have to guess when you get to passage 4. You'll have to guess on 5 of those 10 questions because you ate up all your time in passage 2 with main idea, right? So here's what you're going to do. Don't fall asleep. Here's what you're going to do. You are going to, when you see a main idea, circle it, answer it last in the passage. It's going to be your last question in the passage. Y'all got it? Yes.
So I noticed that when I was took the reading practice test, that the first passage is really easy for me, and the last passage really bored me, and I didn't do really as well on them as the first one. So is there any like tips on how to keep your interest engaged in those boring passages?
Well, and a lot of times they put the narrative passage. Usually there is a narrative passage, and a lot of times.
Pardon the interruption, teachers, just for a few announcements. One, the golf team, we will need to report to Mr. Morris's study hall for today. And also for the tennis players, you will need to go to Mr. Jones's room for today. Thank you.
Also, one more quick announcement. This announcement is for anyone interested in participating in track and field. This coming up spring, we will have a quick informational meeting and a sign-up meeting this Wednesday immediately after school. So go ahead and make plans now if you're interested in running track and participating in track and field this year. For it to stay immediately after school meeting should not last no more than about 20 minutes. So after school on Wednesday, that meeting would take place in Coach Sam Plasky's classroom immediately after school on Wednesday for track and field. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so Olivia has asked an awesome question. And I think, usually they put the narrative first because I think they know that those are the easier ones for most students because people like to read about a story. Although if you're really science brained, usually one of them is a science passage too. So I would just say, unfortunately, to keep concentration is to breathe really deep, to refresh your mind, close your eyes for half a second, breathe really deep, and then just dig back in. And just discipline. And metacognition is thinking about thinking, and you will actually do better if you think about thinking. And you can coach yourself through it. Stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. It's almost done. It's almost done. Stay focused. Do you know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, you're going to have some boring passages and probably some technical passages too. And you just got to get through them. You just got to just make it a game for yourself. I got to match. I got to find what's restated. I'm on a search and a hunt, rescue, and I'm going to go rescue the right answer and get out of it.
I just found them really confusing.
Yeah. And, using your pencil too to try to underline those things, those key things that you might want to go back, get your eyes back to immediately. Read, and on those, you may want to make sure you really do take the approach where you read the questions first, because that's activated reading. So you read the questions first and you know more what you're going back to look for. And then you can kind of let go of those things you don't need to look for. That makes sense? Okay. So, so I want to say one other thing about main idea, and then we'll pick up, I'm going to give you your homework, and we'll pick up with paired passages tomorrow. Here's the other thing I want to say about main ideas. Main ideas do not always take the form of main idea. They don't always say what is the main idea. Sometimes they phrase it in like, what do you think the author's opinion? Or There are two sections in this passage that were written this way to most likely convey. So this strategy for main idea, actually, you should apply it to any question that requires you to have a feeling for the entire passage in order to answer the question. Does that make sense? So it's not always worded main idea. A lot of times it is, but sometimes it's author's purpose, or sometimes it's why do you think this passage was divided into two passages? And you would really need to know what each passage was about in order to do that. So any passage, any question that really requires you to know the full scope of the passage, apply this main idea strategy to that. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's my goal for you. Okay, so today was practice. Tonight you actually go and apply the strategies, right? So this is like a soccer game. This is like a football game. This is it. This is go time, a basketball game. So what I want you to do tonight, but remember how we talked about Hunter, wake up, other Hunter. Don't leave me yet, okay? Here are my instructions. Give yourself 12 minutes. So you have 12 minutes of homework from me. That's longer than you normally would, but I want you to go find the answers and underline them in the passage. When you find them in the passage, I want you to underline it. And I want you to put question number 1. Like, here's the answer to question number 1, and write that in the passage. Then, next to the question, I want you to write whether or not you think the question was restated in the passage or demonstrated in the passage. Okay, so I'm going to go over this one more time. 12 minutes, underline where you find the answer, write whether or not it's demonstrated or restated, and of course, pick the right answer, right? And then tomorrow, I'm going to check these just for completion. It'll be a 10-point homework grade, and then we will go over them. But I won't count it for accuracy. But at the end of this week, you'll have another practice test under your belt. And I can give you another composite score at the end of this week. Okay? So do your best and apply the strategies you learned today. Okay? Say that again. Yeah, leave your booklets, please, on your desk. I'll take them up. Y'all have an awesome afternoon. I'll see y'all tomorrow.